basically, before we understand that, what is the meaning of negotiable instrument. In our day-to-day life, goods, services are bought or sold. When you buy goods, services are bought or sold for cash as well as on credit. Common practices of business people to use certain documents as means of payment. Some of these documents are called negotiable instrument. Negotiable means transferable, which means that it can be transferred from one end to another end. Instrument means document. This is the legal language. So negotiable instruments are document for making payments, the ownership of which can be transferred from one person to another many times before the final payment is made. Therefore, according to Section 13 of the Negotiable Instrument Act 1881, a negotiable instrument means promissory note, bill of exchange, or check, payable either to order or to bearer. Negotiation, we understand what is the negotiation. So according to Section 14, when a promissory note, bill of exchange, or check is transferred to any person so as to constitute that person, the holder, the instrument, is said to be negotiated. When a promissory note, bill of exchange, or check is transferred to any person so as to constitute that person, the holder of the instrument, is said to be negotiated. Negotiation means the transfer of an instrument in such a form that the transferee becomes a legal holder of it. If the instrument is payable to order, it is negotiated by endorsement, and delivery of payable to bearer, it is negotiated by mere delivery. The promissory note, again Section 4. Promissory note basically is an instrument in writing, not being a bank note or a currency note. Promissory note basically is an instrument in writing containing an unconditional undertaking signed by the maker to pay on demand or at a fixed or determinable future time which can be determined, a certain sum of money only to, or to the order of a certain person, or to the bearer of the instrument. There are 5-6 conditions concerning the promissory note. So promissory note must be in writing, duly signed by the maker, and properly stamped as per Stamp Act. Must contain an undertaking or promise to pay and not acknowledgement of indebtedness. Promise to pay, not conditional. Maker and payee must be certain. There should be no ambiguity between these two parties. So therefore the maker and payee must be certain. Payable on demand or on future date. Promise to pay money only, which means that you wish to promise and you wish to pay money to the other party. Some payable must be certain. Some means the payment, how much you are paying, 100,000, 200,000, or 500,000, or 2 million, or 10 million, or whatever. So that has to be certain. Further, we'll discuss the bill of exchange, and it is Section 5 of the Negotiable Instrument Act. Bill of exchange is an instrument in writing containing an unconditional order signed by the maker, directing a certain person to pay on demand or at a fixed or determinable future time a certain sum of money only to or to the order of the certain person or to the bearer of the instrument. Bill of exchange contains three parties. Bill of exchange must be in writing. Three parties, which means a maker, a payer, and the payee. Bill of exchange contains three parties. Bill of exchange must be in writing. Bill of exchange must contain an order to pay. Order must be unconditional. Order must be to pay money only. To some payable must be certain that to whom you are going to pay. The parties involved must be certain and subject to stamp duty if drawn under usance. Types of bill of exchange are demand bill of exchange, sight or DP collection. Usance means some date, some determined date, determinable, which in Urdu we can say the mayad, that for that from this date to this date it can be used from this date to this date. So usance of bill of exchange terms or DA collection, nothing and protesting of bill of exchanges if it is honored on presentation or maturity. Now we will see about check. What is check, which usually we use almost every week or every month or every day. Check is a bill of exchange drawn on a specified banker and not expressed to be payable otherwise than on demand. Parties in check are drawer, drawee, and payee. So these are the parties of the in check. Check is very important to understand what is that. So some salient features of a check we must understand. The check must be in writing and duly signed by the drawer. It contains unconditional order. It is issued on a specified banker. An amount is always certain and mentioned in figures and words. Pay is certain, always payable on demand. Check must bear date. It is very important that every check has to be date mentioned on top of it. So what is the difference between promissory note and bill of exchange? Basically, promissory note is unconditional promise, whereas bill of exchange is unconditional order. Promissory note, two parties, maker and payee. Bill of exchange, there are three parties, drawer, drawee, and payee, and made by the debtor, and bill of exchange drawn by the creditor. And liability of maker is primary and absolute in promissory note. Liability of maker is primary and absolute, whereas bill of exchange liability of drawer is secondary and conditional if drawee fails to pay. So these are the basically some differences between bill of exchange and promissory note. Essential of valid checks. We were talking about valid checks before. So essentials of the valid checks are: the check must be payable on demand. A check is payable on demand when it is expressed to payable on demand, or at sight or presentation when no time for the payment is expressed. Check must be an order to pay money, and it must be for the payment of money only. A check must be signed by the person giving the order. If the order is not signed by him, it is not a valid bill. Hence, where the signature of the drawer is forged, or where it is signed on behalf of the drawer or by a person having no authority, it will not be considered signed by the drawer. And finally, the amount must be a sum certain. The amount must be a sum certain, not subject to contingent or indefinite conditions. For example, an instrument for the sum of rupees 1000 and all other sum which may be due would not be valid check, since the sum payable is not certain. And another important thing for the check is a check must be payable to or to the order of the specified person or bearer. Hence, where the check is not made payable to bearer, the payee must be named or otherwise indicated with reasonable certainty. So this is some basic knowledge about the negotiable instrument for the students and the common people. Thank you very much for participating.